Welcome to this session of the Mayor's Update. I am William Kay, today's moderator, and you're listening to KBBG 88.1 FM Waterloo. And now I'm pleased to introduce Waterloo's Mayor, the Honorable Buck Clark. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, William.
Yes, a lot of good things going on, and a lot happens in a month, does it not?
Oh man, a lot happens in a day for crying out loud. But you know, we're enjoying some summer weather well into September, which is fabulous.
Yes, it's a good way to end a mayoral term, isn't it, with good weather?
Yeah, I got a little bit to go yet, but yeah.
That's good. Well, I just want to talk a little bit about some things that I think are pretty interesting, like the single speeds plan for the Wonder Bread building is now more or less finalized, is it not?
It is, yeah.
And what's that going to entail? What's that going to be?
Well, you know, for those that don't know, Dave Morgan, the owner of Single Speed over in Cedar Falls, has been very successful with a craft beer brewery on a relatively small scale, and he's done very well in Cedar Falls. And he wants to expand that business into a larger market and expand the retail part of selling his beers. Rather than just over the bar, he wants to be able to do it out of stores and so forth. So he approached us quite some time ago, several months ago, about the availability of the Wonder Bread building, the Wonder Bread Bakery building. And you know, it's taken some time, as all of these things do, but Dave has got a great business plan. It's a great business for that area. The city and Signal Speed have worked out an agreement, and I think that you'll see activity down there very soon. I know it's Dave's intention to get started very soon. There will be certainly the craft brewery part of that's where you'll be able to watch Dave brew his beer. You'll be able to drink it and taste it, etc. But there will also be a restaurant operation there. I think it's going to be very exciting for downtown Waterloo. I think it's a great reuse of that building.
Well, and it fits right into a lot of the venues down there.
Yeah.
You've got the Ground Museum, the Center for the Arts, the hockey, not to mention other things that go on, events that go on all towns. It's a nice place for people to start out or finish up after an event too.
Absolutely, and you know, we've talked about the TechWorks project, William, for 6 years, ever since I've been mayor. That's it's still very, very, very much on the burner. Matter of fact, it is on the front burner, and the developer is working with a hotel flag that we've just about got nailed down, and a first-class restaurant that's going to be a part of that project. The financing is in place. We've sold bonds to help the project, so that project is going to happen. And while that's not, you know, we call it downtown, but it's kind of, you know, a little bit removed from downtown, but it's still a downtown project. That's going to be part of that whole, the stuff that you just mentioned, the Sportsplex and all of those other things, that will just blend into it. So the Single Speed Brewery going into the old Wonder Bread Bakery building is just one more piece of that downtown development that is making Waterloo a very exciting place to be and really putting us on the map.
Well, you say that the TechWorks is outside of downtown, but actually downtown is expanding because you may have a marina in that very area.
Yeah.
Along with the Whitewater.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and we will have, it's not may have, we will have a marina, probably not till even 2017 would be ambitious, probably 2018, but there will be a marina there. Hopefully we'll have a whitewater park in downtown Waterloo on the Cedar River by 17, if not late 16. So those things are moving forward, and we're just, again, creating a destination location in downtown Waterloo.
Well, let me ask you this, because it comes to mind. You know, we have put a bladder on the dam to raise the water level upstream.
Yes, we have.
How do we keep that from, say, silting in or sanding in?
Well, the hydrologists seem to know the answer to that, and there is a degree of siltation in there, William, and I don't know if your question pertained to like a whitewater park, how would we create that, or just generally speaking? Just
because you have a lot of power boating that goes on.
We do, and last year we finished rebuilding the wing dam on the north or west side of the Sans Souci Island up there, which had deteriorated, which caused a lot of the siltation coming down through one of the channels of the Cedar there. But you don't completely stop siltation. That's why one of nature's ways of fixing that for us is flooding. You know, while flooding can be very damaging and certainly not something we wish for on a regular basis, some of the high water that we have routinely in the spring helps to scour the bottom and get rid of some of that. Everybody, not everybody, that's a bad word, a lot of people advocate dredging the river to get rid of that siltation. Dredging is an option, without a doubt, but it's incredibly expensive. It's permit laden. The material that you have to get that you take out of the river has to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. Lots of folks will say, well, just let the contractors use it. They can make concrete out of it, and you can't. There is sand that is of the quality that you can use for construction, and then there's just junk. It's mud. It doesn't have any useful purpose whatsoever. So it has to be disposed of somewhere. So between the cost of dredging itself and added to that the cost of disposing of that material, which is not of construction grade, it's an enormous, enormous cost and virtually an ongoing process that we just have not chosen to undertake to this point.
It's understandable. I also want to mention too, in case people really lose sight of things, we have a boathouse there that's brand new. Mm-hmm. That's a nice venue for events, like wedding receptions, that sort of thing. Plus it houses the rowing team, mm-hmm. which, by the way, as of 5 years I was on the rowing team.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And then all that leads right into Exchange Park, which of course has the ball diamonds and the softball diamonds and all the activities there. So there's a lot going on in what I would call the greater downtown area.
Yeah, and the boathouse doesn't get much mention, William. And when that was destroyed in the 2008 flood and was rebuilt with FEMA money, that is an incredible venue for what you said. Mm-hmm. Retirements, birthday parties, wedding receptions, et cetera, et cetera. It's very reasonably priced through our leisure services division, and it's just beautiful. From that, if it's in the wintertime, you get to look at the snow and the frozen lake and the geese and so forth. In the summertime, you have the river. It's an incredibly beautiful location. Now, having said all of that, the parking lot needs some work. So the boat ramp that's there, the river wall, and the parking parking area, it needs a little work. And we have that programmed in some bonding coming up in the next 5 years, but that's something that we're cognizant of.
I should just mention something, I didn't mean to just correct you, but really the Center of the Arts is the place to go if you want to look at that venue.
It is true, that's true. It used to be Leisure Services, now we have a programming director through the Center of the Arts, and you are absolutely right.
Yeah, so if you're interested in looking at the place for an event, it's the Center of the Arts that you call.
That's correct.
And I'd really recommend people even considering that for a lot of different functions.
Oh, it's just a gorgeous venue.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, the other thing that came up about is this Hawkeye Stages project. Mm-hmm. Now, they're moving. Mm-hmm. Now, is this an expansion of their business, mm-hmm. or are they just...
Mm-hmm. They currently lease a building on LaPorte Road, and Hawkeye Stages has been in Waterloo for a very long time, and they were looking to build their own spot and to relocate. So we got in, what we get in very often, a race to try to keep them in our city, and we did. And so they're going to go out by the old dog park, and that new park that's being developed out there with a substantial building with some substantial land to rebuild and to make their home in Waterloo. We work very hard to keep that project. We always work hard when we see the potential for a Waterloo business to be moving to another community. We try very hard to keep them. We think our efforts are worth it. Those businesses are important to us, so that one's staying now.
And that's not a small operation. They have 24 buses, and these are large tour buses.
They're tour buses, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, it's kind of funny because I can never recall on LaPorte Road where they were, because
they're right there by Vic's, the Vic's Lounge.
Yeah, but they're not. It's not very obvious.
No, not at all. Yeah. So we are criticized frequently for our efforts to incent people to either locate or stay in Waterloo. William, we think it's worth it. We think that getting businesses to come to Waterloo and to stay in Waterloo is well worth it. And the incentives that we give to do that will eventually be paid back through taxes. And we think, again, we think it's very well worth it.
Well, and not that I'm very well informed upon this, but my understanding is when Cedar Falls did their industrial park, they put a lot of incentive money into that too. And
Initially, they did.
Yes, so
You bet.
it was quite a few years before they actually started to see the
Yeah,
benefit.
yeah, and you know, I have to give credit where credit is due, and Cedar Falls did that right. They did a very good job. They bought all that land, they put in all of the infrastructure, the roads and the water, and they used taxpayer dollars to do that, and TIF money now, but they built that park on the premise that if you build it, they'll come.
Mhm.
And in fact, they did build it, and in fact, they are coming in droves.
Yeah, the only thing that always bothered me about that was they got Highway 58.
They do.
We have yet to finish 63,
Mhm.
which is 15 years in the process of getting that accomplished.
Mhm.
Plus, of course, I've always said that it may have been a mistake to put traffic lights on 218 or 380.
Mhm.
But, you know, those decisions were made at a different
I
time.
just heard Leo turn over in his grave there. The Leo roof.
Yes, I know, because he was really the architect of it. And of course, that part of that section of that highway is named after this
Yeah.
Leo
Yeah.
P. Roof
Yeah.
Expressway. And I think at the time, it might have been, you know, we could always say 25 years later, oh, we should have done something different.
Sure,
But
pretty easy to say that.
it is really easy to say that. And, you know, just going back to the Tech Works, you know, that is basically like an anchor for to downtown, because the people staying there now have places to go.
Mhm.
Well, like we say, you know, at single speed and so forth.
Mhm.
The other question I had is, what is progressing now on what used to be the Grand Hotel lot?
Mhm. You will see ground broken there, I believe, in October. There were some state funding issues with IEDA money that kind of slowed that project down a bit. We've worked through those. That's a three-phase project. The first phase will be residential, and there are two more phases that will be residential commercial mix with some fabulous new exciting architecture on this first phase. It's going to be I think it'll be the place to live, both Waterloo and Cedar Falls. Brent Dahlstrom is a developer on that, and Brent is doing some really cutting edge stuff. And part of the requirements from the city of Waterloo for that project were that this is not going to be just another apartment building or another condo building. This is going to have some really cool features to it, both inside and outside. That will break ground. I'm quite sure it'll break ground in October. We'll have a groundbreaking ceremony for that, and that will be on the fast track to get finished. I would expect that to be open sometime in 2016 next year, but that will be the first stage of private development outside of the Tech Works area. It'll be right there. Just really cool stuff.
Now, is that a three-story?
I just looked at the rendering of that yesterday. I actually, William, I can't remember. It's either 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah.
So it may have 1 floor of parking and then 3 stories above it. I can't remember, but
It just seems to me to be some
I-
commercial applications and maybe some professional applications and then some housing.
in that area, yes, yes, yeah.
And now, isn't Brent Dahlstrom involved in the proposal for a residence where the flea market used
Yeah.
to be?
That will be his, yes. Brent's involved in a lot of stuff. He's an exciting guy. You know, he started, he's a homegrown self-starter success story that has done very, very well and continues to prove himself, which is something that I think everybody, you know, Brent's just a young guy. You know, you
Mhm.
think of these developers that are involved in multi-million dollar projects all over the place to have some gray hair somewhere. And Brent doesn't. He's a young guy that's doing very well, making good decisions, and is being very successful. But yes, there will be and the architecture that Brent is using on the Grand Crossing, which is the Grand Crossing site we were just talking about, will also be used on the flea market site. And the flea market site, for those that don't know, is the 6th and Commercial area where there used to be a dilapidated old flea market bar, music store thing. It's a great spot. It'll be riverfront frontage there that'll be very popular, and it'll be a great building.
It always seemed like a relatively small plot of land, and of course you got the railroad bordering the east side of that. So, but still, it sounds like well, we're getting a lot of residents downtown now, aren't we? We're building up quite a population.
And it always amazes me, William, when you look at a plot of ground and you think, my gosh, you can't put housing there, it's too small. You know, they build vertically, and when you incorporate parking probably underneath or on the first floor of a building, you can actually get quite a few units on a pretty small spot.
Well, that one is, because there was some controversy over this, I thought, at the council meeting about there would be some storefronts in that building too.
Well, I don't remember that, but you know, we've had plans off and on for, you know, again, one level of retail. Retail and residential combination, that mix has to really be done right, or both can fail. So I'm very honest with you. I don't know, but I don't think there's any retail planned in that location at this time. I think that's all residential and parking.
Well, one of the things that downtown Waterloo does need is, you know, like the Plaid Peacock, you know, it needs places like that, I think.
Absolutely.
We have plenty of entertainment.
Absolutely.
We just need shopping, and we need a place for the residents to, say, do their grocery shopping and pick up incidentals, hardware, that sort of thing.
That has always been an issue, you know, the chicken or the egg, you know, overused term, but it's very true as it relates to this. Retailers wouldn't come because there wasn't the mass of people living downtown. We, I believe, are very quickly approaching a critical mass of people, of residences, of people living downtown within walking and biking distance that can make retail successful in the downtown area. You know, the last thing we wanted was to encourage retail to build and develop downtown and then not have enough people to support them. We don't want people going out of business, and it's happened downtown. There have been some fledgling entrepreneurs down there that have not done well and have gone out of business. We don't want that to happen. So I think we're getting close to that.
Well, have you been to the Tri-State Clothing, their new store on 4th Street?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful place.
Yeah, it is.
That's the kind of thing too, that, because there used to be clothing stores down there all over the place downtown at one time.
Yeah.
I did want to mention too, it seemed to me that at one particular era, most of your storefronts had residents above them. It was literally pretty common, so we're getting back to that.
We are, and that's, you know, Jim Walsh, I mention him often. Jim is doing that in spades and trying to redevelop as much as possible historically, because he's getting more storage tax credits, he has to. So there is a flavor of that days gone by, and most of the stuff that Jim is building. He is now redoing above the CU restaurant and the Cellar Lounge and the CU restaurant. That will all be apartments above those, and oh man, they'll knock your socks off. They are gorgeous, and the top floor actually has a whole floor, which used to be the old speakeasy, and then a balcony above that. You walk upstairs and he's built a bedroom and bathroom and sauna and jacuzzi and stuff on the top of that building. It's going to be incredible. That one will be a little pricey, but boy, it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be a great location. And before we move away too far, you mentioned Tri-City. Tri-City has been a real thorn in our side, William, and a lot of your listeners will immediately clench their teeth when they hear Tri-City, because the old burned out location is still there. We have had a terrible time with that. We have been getting resistance from the owner of that at every turn that we've tried to get involved with that. Inevitably we wrote some tickets, we went to court. The owner has gotten an attorney and is fighting us in court. We are now going to go through a court order, a safety issue with that. This past Monday we approved getting a contract for bids on that, so they can go out for bids so we can see how much that's going to cost us. We are going to get that cleaned up come heck or high water, and we'll just have to figure out a way to try to recoup our costs on that. But we are committed to getting that cleaned up. Councilman Hart is driving that and is doing everything he can, and with City Hall's help, we're going to get that cleaned up.
Well, I know that one of the complaints is that the nature of the rubble may attract rodents and that sort of thing.
It's just a mess. People have started dumping there, but it's also the DNR. We don't know if it contains asbestos. But when we have a building that's in the shape that that's in, for us to clean it up, we have to assume that there's asbestos. So we have to treat that site as such. If it wasn't for that, we could have gone in there for, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 with the bulldozer and cleaned it up. Having and being required to treat it as an asbestos site, as a contaminated site, it makes it a whole new ballgame. We're going to be approaching $30,000 to clean that thing up, because of the asbestos. And again, we don't know that it's there, but we have to treat it as it is there. We have to. So, you know, we certainly have citizens that are saying, well, that's the city's responsibility, just go do it. Well, okay, to a degree it is our responsibility, but it's also taxpayer money. So, you know, there's some pushback whenever we use taxpayer money to do things like this. We've tried to do the right thing. We are going to get it cleaned up. The bottom line is we're going to get it cleaned up. We'll have it cleaned up. I'm very hopeful before this winter comes.
Yeah, and that would be good to do that, because once it's winter, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
I know I own a couple of buildings, and my insurance in case of fire has a clause that says that there's a replacement cost, you know, which includes cleaning up the site and then rebuilding something. So it's really an insurance matter on the owner's responsibility.
And that wasn't the case on this. He had a small, very small liability policy on this that won't touch the cost of cleaning.
Yeah. No, it's too bad.
So anyway, I got you off track, but I did want to tell your listeners that we are not oblivious to that. We are not ignoring that site. It's just been an incredibly hard thing for us to get accomplished.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do have it on my agenda to talk about.
Good,
today.
okay. Well, I didn't,
So
you
that-
mentioned Tri-Cities, so.
Yes, I'll do that too. Just another question too. Can you maybe discuss a little bit, you know, there's levies being proposed for the Grout Museum.
Yes.
And there's always a controversy about, you know, what is the city's role with the Grout Museum? I mean, are we a partner with them? We know we have two people on their board from the city council. What is the story on that?
Well, you're right. We have two city council members who are a member of the Grout Board. We do not offer funding to them other than through the CDB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau Hotel Motel money. They receive grants from that organization. The Grout Museum is a absolute gem for our city. They do a wonderful job. They're a great organization. We desperately, desperately need them in our city. I can't imagine how devastating it would be should the Grout fail financially and be forced to move or to close. That would be a very bad thing. So I hope that our citizenry recognizes the importance of that facility, of that building, of what they offer the community, and approves this levy. Having said all that, I'm not sure, and the council has voiced their opinion, that it's not appropriate to necessarily have the city being a funding source, directly funding source, because it's, again, taxpayer money. It's me and it's you. We pay taxes, and there are a lot of people that would object to that stream, that funding stream. So I think that this Grout levy is appropriate. It's, in the big scheme of things, very small, and it will do wonders for the Grout, and the Grout does wonders for the city. So we need that facility.
Well, they get a lot of out-of-town visitors.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
I would encourage anybody to consider procuring a membership.
Yeah.
And the same with the Center for the Arts, you know, you can become a member of that too. That supports the organization. And then maybe as an incentive for you to go see the exhibits in both. The 365 and counting exhibits, just outstanding for anybody who would like to get a flavor for the Vietnam War and on all fronts how that affected.
You know, I think that there are an awful lot of our citizenry, William, that are a bit short-sighted, maybe, and maybe that's a bad term. I'll probably get criticized for using that, but cities have to have quality of life things, quality of life venues, quality of life events, in order to stay alive, to be a viable city. You have to have the Grout museums, you have to have the sportsplex, you have to have golf courses, you have to have swimming pools, you have to have things that make life interesting and fun in order for people to live in your city. So we believe very strongly that the Grout is right at the top of that list, being a quality of life issue. And you're right, you mentioned the cultural art. Not everybody likes to go look at paintings. I have a tough time going down there figuring out what I'm looking at sometimes. But there's a whole bunch of folks that really like that.
Not only that,
we need to provide those things for
well,
those
you're not
folks.
aware that sometimes you can request a tour. Somebody from the Center of Arts will go through that with you and explain what's happening. Typically you have a group, but even individuals, I think, can get private tours of, you know, brief, maybe not long-term one, where you can ask questions and they can inform you as to some of the things that you wouldn't be aware of.
And there's, you know, it's not just the Art Center, it's the Youth Pavilion. You can take your young kids down there and Katie bar the door for the things for young kids to do. My wife takes, or used to take, when our grandson was a little younger, would take him down there, and they'd spend the majority of the day just going through all of the stuff down there that there is to do. It's all interactive, and kids
that's-
can have a great time in there.
And we haven't even mentioned the music venue down there.
Yeah.
Because we have the municipal band, and sometimes the Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony will actually perform there too. You know, I promised that we'd get into this a little bit, because I know you have a passion for people getting interested in participating in
Yeah.
government. And, you know, we do have a problem with presidential elections. We only get about 50–60%. And in local elections where we have school boards and this sort of thing, we only have, well, sometimes like less than 17%.
Yeah, yeah.
I just would like to, and I think you would agree with me, people really need to pay attention to what's going on. You can complain all you want, but if you don't participate in the government, you really are abdicating your say in what goes on.
That's correct.
And you may not think your vote matters, but an informed vote does matter, and it's a way of giving feedback to the people who we have elected to represent us.
Yeah, well, thank you, and you're looking at the clock, so, oh my gosh, I don't have much time, I won't expand, maybe next week, or next month in October, before the November election,
We could easily do an hour, because I
Yeah.
have a lot more things that we can
Well,
talk about.
it's important, there will be forums coming up, very, very soon, for both the mayor's position and the city council position in Waterloo. I can't overstate, it would be impossible to overstate the importance of local government, how much it affects your life. And you need to vote for people that you have confidence in them doing the right thing, not because it's your neighbor, or because you go to church with the person, and because he's this or that. You need to be informed, and you need to
You
vote.
do. Well,
Let's talk about that.
Yes, the average person doesn't know who their representatives are from the federal government, and
Right.
very few people even know who their council representative is. So
Sure.
it's good to know that. And I do have to wrap up.
Yeah,
You know,
go.
We're running out of time, and there's so much more I think that we could discuss. So sorry. We've been talking to Mayor Buck Clark, and again, thanks so much for being here. It's really a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm just assuming that the listening audience is getting a great deal of benefit out of our discussions. And thank you to the audience for listening, and be sure to take an active interest in what's going on in the city. You can watch meetings available on YouTube or through the city website, or keep informed by reading the newspaper. If you have concerns or questions, be sure to contact your council representative or the appropriate city department. Information can be found on www.cityofwaterlooiowa.com or search for the City of Waterloo, Iowa. We have a participatory government, so please evaluate the issues. Discuss them with your friends and family. Make your concerns known. It's your right, it's your privilege, and your duty. And a final note, we have underwriters that support this public radio station. Be sure to thank them for their support, and you can be a supporter as well. Consider keeping us on the air by making a financial contribution. It's important. So until next time, keep in mind the city business is your business. Be sure to mind your business. This has been the Mayor's Update. I'm William Kay, and you are listening to KBBG 88.1 FM Waterloo. Good day.